Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and smeared the clay on his eyes and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." But others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on the Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" He said, "He is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. They asked them, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age. Question him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He replied, "If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind, and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. What do you want? Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" They ridiculed him and said, "You are that man's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from." The man answered and said to them, "This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever open the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything." They answered and said to him, "You were born totally in sin, and you are trying to teach us?" Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him. The one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord," and he worshiped him. Then Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not also blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, 'We see,' so your sin remains." The Gospel of the Lord.
Who are you going to believe, me or your own lying eyes? This is a phrase, a joke that we use to warn our friends when we think they're being fooled by somebody who's taking them down a path of deception. We use that phrase because our sight is so powerful and such a powerful source of certainty for us. And yet we know that it's fallible. Even in this electronic age where so many fascinating things are available to us, I've noticed that on Facebook, among the most viral of posts are optical illusions, some of which date back, in my research this week, to the 19th century of old woodcuts. And now they've been updated for an internet age, but there they are. We like to look at these optical illusions, and I think it speaks to a virtue in us. It's fun to be fooled from time to time, and to be fooled is to be reminded of the possibility of our own folly. Openness to being fooled and to the possibility of one's folly is kind of at the heart of this wonderful, humorous, ironic, and deeply challenging passage from the Gospel of John. For me, this falls under a rubric of gospel stories that I like to call Jesus, our best and most annoying friend. Jesus is our best friend because he opens our eyes. He heals our blindness in a literal and figurative way we see in this gospel. But this poor blind man blind from birth, who gains his sight in Jesus, gets more than he bargained for. He's tossed to and fro between friends and family and Pharisees trying to explain himself, and he's not always good at it, or maybe he's just without guile. There's that wonderful moment where the Pharisees clearly trying to trap him, and he replies, "Why do you want to hear this story again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" It's so obvious that that's not what's going on. But this blind man's sight, having been offered by the Lord, is clearer. It's different from that of the Pharisees, who are so certain of what they see. Jesus, when we enter into relationship with him, draws us into the knowledge that only with him will we see truly and clearly, that nothing is as reliable as that relationship with Christ. We see in last Sunday's somewhat lengthy passage from the Gospel of John with the Samaritan woman at the well, and in this Sunday's somewhat lengthy passage from the Gospel of John, that the more the Samaritan woman at the well dwells with Jesus, the clearer his nature becomes to her. The more the blind man encounters Jesus, the clearer what's happening to him becomes to him. And the more difficult it is for him to relate to his neighbors, to his family, to his religious leaders. In this way, Jesus is our best and most annoying friend because he gives us true light, and it makes everything else uncomfortable. So often do we and our friends and our religious leaders stumble around in the darkness that sometimes those moments of light when we are dwelling with Jesus lead us to be uncomfortable and to make life uncomfortable for others. Jesus will not leave you alone. If you enter into a relationship with him, if you invite him into your home and into your heart and into your relationships and into your work, he will not leave you alone because he is your best and most annoying friend. He will invite you ever more deeply into conversion, into courage, and these things can be uncomfortable. For this reason, each year, the church is blessed with this great and joyous season of Lent, a time for us to wrestle with that discomfort of conversion. A time for us to be open to the fact that sometimes what we pray for from Jesus is the ability to see, and that sight, that clarity of vision might make us feel quite alone. This man born blind challenges everyone around him. In the midst of this challenge, he is doubted by his neighbors. Is this even the man we thought we knew? He is interrogated by his leaders in the faith. He is abandoned by his parents out of their weakness and fear. And through it all, one person stands with him, loves him, is patient with him, understands him. His experience, like the experience of the Samaritan woman at the well with Jesus, is the experience of being with one who knows him better than anyone else and who never doubts him and never gives him cause for doubt. The surety in our faith is our relationship with the Christ. The Gospels are not dishonest. They tell us that this Prince of Peace came to divide, that he would divide even mother against daughter, father against son. He would divide nations. He would divide co-religionists. It's sometimes a painful, a frightening message. We sometimes would like to hit the snooze alarm on it, but as we heard in today's second reading, the invitation of Christ is for us sleepers to awake, to awaken. Let us cling to Christ in this Lenten season. Let us allow him to change us, as uncomfortable as it may be. Let us allow him to open our eyes to our own blindness, to the ways in which we have not let Christ deeply enough into our homes, our marriages, our priesthood, our teaching, our working, our study, our humor, our sorrow. Allowing Christ more deeply into every nook and cranny of our lives is allowing light in. It's allowing life in. It's awakening what we have allowed to become dead. The great gift of this season of Lent is to let that light and that life well forth, that we might properly and fittingly celebrate the great feast of Easter toward which we turn.